Market development in the Niger Delta is a rural and agricultural market systems development program that uses the M4P approach to design systematic and sustainable interventions that generate pro-poor and inclusive growth in the 9 Niger Delta states, aimed at facilitating the increase in incomes of at least 150,000 poor people, of whom 50% must be women. Initiated and funded by the UK Aid Department for International Development, its design is based on the recognition that poverty is the failure of market systems in which the poor participate. When markets work efficiently and produce equitable outcomes for the poor, such markets become powerful vehicles for delivering growth and poverty reduction. Nigeria's smallholder farmers lose up to 40% of produce to disease and pests, while poor access to fertilizer impedes productivity, household food security, and farmers' incomes. In the Niger Delta, farmers record low yields due to limited availability and use of quality agricultural inputs and poor agricultural practices. In the agricultural inputs value chain, MAID promoted market-driven relationships between input companies, their distributors and retailers to reach out to crop farmers, increasing farmers' access to appropriate inputs and improving productivity.
I'm a farmer presently now, but formerly I'm an engineer. When I was in Lagos, I've never counted cash of 70,000 in my life. But when I got there, I count thousands. Since I become a farmer, my life changed completely.
Even my children, they are looking shy. And to do everything is very easy.
In Nigeria, 80% of oil palm is produced by rural smallholder farmers, and inefficiencies in production, harvesting, and oil extraction results in up to 50% post-harvest loss.
As MAID, we identified some local fabricators who were interested. So there was a part of interest and willingness. The starting point was the feedback we got that machine of 4 million. Madam, in this my local community, how can I afford it? So we worked in scaling down on the capacity and cost. So where we had machines going for about 3-4 million, we had some fabricators who scaled down to less than 1 million. That allowed some persons from the 800,000 people to have immediate access. Some of the fabricators said, we can't do this, I don't know how to do it. I wish to be trained. So we supported some on being trained on how to fabricate machines. But there was something none of the fabricators were doing. They were not promoting their businesses. They were not. All they do is they have a shop, put the machine in front of their shop. Anyone who comes in, oh-ho. Anyone who doesn't come, oh-ho. So how do you get your business going when you cannot even promote it? So we train them on how to target that market. And then we supported with provision of information on the market side. This 800,000, now that market has increased, because when we started, it was 500,000. And the strategy they adopted was demonstrations. That, okay, if I situate the mill here, or if someone buys, and we demonstrate, then more people become aware. They become aware that there's a machine there. They become aware of the benefits. They even become aware of the fabricator who made that machine, and they can go ahead and have linkage with other millers. So when the fabricators scaled down and they started promoting the machine, we had a little challenge. The uptake of the machine was slow, because even at that price point, which for the fabricators it was profitable, it still was not readily affordable for the target group. And that was the point where we introduced the technology adoption grant. And this was strategic. The technology adoption grant, we have about 9 fabricators who are manufacturing, promoting, and selling scaled down SSP targeted at the 800,000 people. And they are doing this through demonstrations. So they install a mill here, they partner with the miller to say, let's have a demonstration so people in your community would know about it. As a result of that, so we went from zero sale of 0.5 ton of SSP in 2014 when we started to 170 SSP units sold. And that's about 127 million naira worth of SSP that have been sold during this period. But an interesting thing that came out is that people started off with the SSP, but then they started asking for, oh, I want a stripper. Oh, I want a fiber knot separator. Oh, I want you to give me another sterilizer. And this resulted in another 15.9 million watts of machines that were sold. For the commercial millers, we have about 160 SSP commercial mills providing improved services all across the 9 states.
In palm oil value chain, MATE promoted market-driven relationships between fabricators and millers and agricultural input companies and oil palm farmers, increasing smallholders' access to appropriate technologies and inputs for improved productivity and breaking the low input, low output nature of the sector. In 2016, national fish demand exceeded 3 million metric tons, with domestic supply meeting less than half the demand at 1,123,000 metric tons. However, the value chain performs suboptimally because of binding constraints.
This design was informed by the constraints that were identified. Improving productivity for individual fish farms by addressing information and knowledge gap through support service channels. Now, these support service channels are basically the aquaculture service providers. Their capacities were enhanced to ultimately train farmers on increasing production. And he runs them on a 3-day course every week for a period of 6 months and gives them the practical trainings on how to farm their fish more productively.
When MATE came and introduced the fish thing, I attended 2-3 of their workshops, and I felt that I should diversify a bit, not to go monocrop. And again, now that I know that the fishes thing can be done in my institute within my compound, and it still keeps the compound neat, I decided to go for that.
The Nigeria poultry industry is a substantial market estimated at 80 billion naira per year, with the significant constraint of high mortality from various diseases.
MAID has worked with 3 veterinary pharmaceutical companies, which in turn have recruited and trained 101 village level dealers. We trained so much more, close to 1,000. However, 101 village level dealers are in communities right now providing services to poultry farmers. They've reached 36,000 farmers.
In the poultry value chain, MAID introduced commercially viable veterinary services into the peri-urban and rural areas to sustainably deliver services to small poultry farmers and reduce poultry mortality rate. MAID demonstrated to lead firms the market size and commercial viability of directly targeting rural smallholder poultry farmers through improved distribution channels for vaccines and other products.
Before, people don't know anything about Newcastle disease. And what is the standard? When Dr. Abbott came up with meds and Dr. Benina came, all of us were able to join to assess quality inputs, such as what? The vaccine, the feed, the drugs, and importantly, we have the skills on how to do what? To vaccinate. And all of us on that day, we now agree that whatever we do to protect the poultry industry in the Niger Delta is for us to go for what? Standardization.
Mortality rate of birds have really been reduced. We have been introduced from forums like this to veterinary assistants, to veterinary doctors. So we just make 1 or 2 calls and they come to our assistance. And the latest we now did was, because of the terrains, we went around and started, the gatekeeper said, let's go into Boy Scouts, Girls Brigade, Red Cross. So we used the secondary school kids. And that was what we did. The veterinary doctors and assistants, please, more kudos to you. They helped us train these youths on how to vaccinate the birds.
The Niger Delta region produces about 14 million tons of cassava a year, accounting for 1/3 of the national output and contributing about 34% of total household income for cassava farmers in the region. Despite the importance of the value chain, inefficiencies in production and processing have given rise to suboptimal cassava industry. In the cassava value chain, MAID addressed the market failure on information about the benefits, knowledge and application, and access to supporting agricultural input market to increase productivity.
So we came, we said, okay, we know what to do so that you start operating. So get them to form farmers, register farmers around you to form clusters that will serve as agroas for you. So we picked them, we started with about 6 of them. Get them to form these agroas. Fine, having formed that, link them together with these farmers. We got the agricultural inputs companies. These are experts in good agronomic practices. So we got them, linked them up with the SMEs, who in turn link them up to the farmers to go there, teach them good agronomic practices.
Me as a farmer, I will suffer from morning till night, every day like that without getting anything. So I was living unhappy life. My farm maize is in Donga, local government of Taraba State. Actually, I told them that this is just a new thing that is coming our side.